and welcome to another episode of Thrive Like a Parent podcast. Today, I am here with the one and only Dr. Maria Gonzalez, who is not only a friend, a colleague, but she's also one of our coaches and also was on Survivor. If you didn't know that, I know I always plug that. But we do podcasts together from time to time, and we thought, you know what, the holidays are coming around and they can be a shit show, to be honest with you. So we wanted to discuss kind of what are the roadblocks with the holidays? What causes such dysregulation? Why are they so stressful? We kind of wanted to talk about all the different things and give you some advice, give you some examples, give you some tips and tricks along the way, and help you get through this crazy time of year, which has creeped up on us, and I can't believe it's come so fast. So, first and foremost, Maria, why don't you say hi and tell everyone a little bit about yourself? I know that you've done this before, but just remind them who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Maria, and I am one of the coaches here. And I love this topic so much, by the way, because holidays are incredibly dysregulating. And for me personally, had so much dysregulation that I didn't even know what it was around the holiday season. And so I'm so excited to talk about this. But I mean, holidays in general are dysregulating. And then
Yeah.
if you're adding family and children and everyone else to the mix, it definitely can get very overwhelming. So I can't wait to share some tips and tricks and examples. And hopefully you all can walk away with some more information of how to navigate the holiday season.
At least feeling like they're not crazy.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. I'm not alone. Well, the first thing we wanted to kind of dive into is the brain's need for predictability. And we have said this so many times before, but our brain craves structure, stability, and control. And when there is a special occasion, your brain can feel it. Your brain can feel the heightened state. And frankly, it can feel a little chaotic within your world and within your life. And that is 100% normal. Does it mean that it's comfortable? Does it mean that you enjoy living in that heightened state? Maybe not. But we want you to know that it is 1000% normal that you are in this like revved, heightened energy. And then
Mhm.
sometimes there's a crash, but we can get to that later. And one of the reasons that it can feel slightly chaotic is because of your body's sensory overload, right? There's music and lights everywhere and you're at crowded parties with people touching you, and there's scented candles everywhere, right? And you're moving from place to place to place. And there's an extreme lack of rest, right? There's a lot going on in a very short period of time, as well as, right, these emotional triggers, which can be caused by the shit show of life, right? Family dynamics, of course, and parents or in laws or friends or family or the outspoken one or whatever the thing is. Or it can be triggered because of grief, because a loved one isn't there. Or it can even be triggered by these unmet needs of expectations that you place upon this time of the year or within your life of like, well, it should go this way. And these are just to name a few of why we can get into this icky place throughout the holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. And also like you're saying, the revving up, you can actually palpate that feeling of that ramped up. I have to get ready for this big event.
Hmm.
But I have a client, for example, who every time she was driving to her parents' home, it triggered her. She had memories of childhood and her body remembered patterns that were existing in that home before she even recognized what was happening. I know for me personally, driving up to my mom's house, I feel like just that excitement of the holidays. Like I know what's coming. I know that there's just going to be a lot of food and conversation, and so it's palpable on our bodies, but we may not know what that is just yet.
Client recently who reached out to me, and he placed so much expectation on this specific trip. His sister works at Disneyland, and so he took all the kids to Disneyland, and he even verbalized in voice messaging. He was like, the expectations that I placed on the trip itself. And I was like, you've got to release that. Like Disneyland will do its its own thing here, right? But the holidays can kind of feel like a trip to Disneyland or Disney World, right? Like it's people everywhere, it's food, it's chaos, it's drinks, and it can invoke a lot of like stress or like you're saying, thinking about the past or thinking about what's coming or what you're about to witness or stepping back into, when I was in college and I would go home for the holidays, it would take me a good, because in college you'd go home for a few weeks. It would
Right.
take me a good week or two to like settle back into living
Mhm.
under my parents' roof and like all the things. And I would get a little snappy with my mom and like it just took some time to like settle in and settle down.
Yeah, and even the expectations when it comes to holidays and gift giving
Mhm.
or Mother's Day or Father's Day or birthdays, that gift giving or gift receiving has its own ups and downs. Maybe the patterning is there of being disappointed or hoping for something that you didn't get. And that I think stays in people's bodies as well. And so there's that expectation or hope, I guess, of receiving something, or like, what will someone's reaction be to the gift that I'm giving? And so
Mhm.
there's just so much there that we're not aware of is sitting inside of our body. And so
Mhm.
when we get triggered by the holidays, there's a lot to be triggered if we haven't sort of addressed it and become aware of it yet.
So, as Maria and I have talked about this portion of what the holidays can bring, our takeaway from this is really the awareness of it is the first step, right? And noticing your patterns before you try to quote fix them. Or in our language, we normally say support, right? If you can kind of become aware of what's in front of you, what you're facing, or the things that you liked, the things that you disliked, right? I had a client so many years ago, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even make Christmas dinner. We're just ordering pizza. I feel like the worst mom, but like that's all I have the energy for." And I was like, "Cool. Like, great. Pizza it is." But if we can have this awareness of what is coming up and what feels good on your body and what you're like, that doesn't feel so good, then you can decide, do I want to go to that party? Do I want to be involved in that Kris Kringle or whatever it is? Like, do I want to do the thing? And then you can shift from there to support your nervous system, right? The holidays are actually supposed to be a time of like relaxation and like rebooting and calm and warmth and all the things, but it has turned into like a rat race of life.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, the next thing we kind of wanted to talk about was how to be able to regulate in real time, right? And this is more like tangible based tips because anyone can tell you to box breathe and journal and meditate and stick your face in a bucket of ice water and bounce around and shake your body. Like, right, like everyone can tell you to do that. But like when you're in the middle of something and like shit's hit the fan or you're like, "Oh my god, this does not feel good and I'm stuck here." Right? I have seen reels before where people are like in the bathroom and they're like, "I'm at my in-laws hiding in the bathroom," like things like that, right? Like that's a red flag alert. I think I need to leave, if you will. But how to support yourself in real time, right? So there are things you can do to basically pre-regulate your body before getting together with certain people, like taking some time and rest for yourself, maybe having some snacks to move your jaw, right? Getting some deep pressure through your nervous system, having some hugs from your partner, right? Setting some boundaries so that you can say yes to some things and no to some things. Asking for quiet time, that's setting a boundary, right? There's so many things that you can do to kind of anchor yourself and be able to keep some sense of stability, if you will, which for me is I continue my routine as much as possible. I continue to move my body. I continue to listen into my body as well as trust, this time of year, what it's for is for me to boot down. And so I make any and every effort to focus on that and continue regulating myself in that particular way, as well as with what feels safe and best and right for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think what you said of continuing, if you have a routine that's set for you, is try to make sure that you have maintained that routine during the holidays, as hard as it is. For me
Mhm.
personally, nutrition and exercise are
Mhm.
paramount, but pre regulating
Mhm.
before a trip for me includes body work. It
Mm,
includes self care in a hands on way when I know something is going to get me revved up. And so I kind of say it to our clients as like banking regulation is that
totally.
you're trying to just build up your reserves in the bank. Maybe that's extra quiet time. Maybe it's a nap. Maybe you actually need to go the other direction and ramp up because you know you're going to be ramped up and it's too jarring to go from 0 to 60. But
Mhm.
you know, first comes that awareness that we talked about and then comes, well, what are the things that you can do that feel good? And maybe it is breaks from people. Maybe it is leaving the event and taking a nap or finding a safe place in the house that you're going to where you know that you can just unwind, take a breather. You mentioned gum, and like chewing
Yeah.
gum is readily available for my children who are at an age that's safe for them to chew gum. It's always there because we know that for them, that input through their jaw is a great way for regulation.
Yeah, as well as like we tell our clients so often, and you basically said this is like preload, right? Almost like have the extra battery pack in your purse for when your phone starts to die and you
Mhm.
don't have a plug, right? Like most of the time, what we see is that people get to the point of like struggling so desperately bad that it's like I need a lifeline like now, or I'm literally going to have a mental breakdown, right? And
Mhm.
so, what we do a lot of times is we help our clients learn how to put gas back in the tank as naturally as possible with embedded within their everyday life.
Mhm.
But once you feel good, if you start doing that, once you feel good when you're like, yeah, I've been giving myself some self care lately, I'm feeling good. Nah, I don't think I need that today. Not around the holidays times. Give it to yourself. Don't be like, "No, I don't think I need that. I think I can go do XYZ." Even if you're feeling good, do it as a precursor, right? Do it before and give yourself that extra gas in the tank because you're building a surplus like Maria's saying. You're building that out so that you can really enjoy the things that you are probably looking forward to as well, right? Maybe you have a trip planned. Maybe you're seeing people you haven't seen in a really long time, right? But if you're burnt out by the time you get there because you're stuffing envelopes with your holiday cards and getting everyone gifts and all the different things, and you haven't done any self care or regulation for yourself beforehand, there's no way you're going to make it through.
Yeah. Even something as simple as eating.
Mm,
Um, because I don't know in your house, but in our house, if lunch is at 12:30, it ends up being at like 2. And so like if you haven't
yeah.
taking care of those physiological needs and then you're dysregulated, well, there's also a very tangible thing that can be addressed that you can make sure you're eating, also make sure your children are eating as banking and preparation for, okay,
Yeah.
lunch might actually be a little bit later than what we planned, let's make sure we take care of this and plan accordingly.
Yeah, that's a real good one to make sure the kiddos aren't going bonkers either, right?
Yeah.
I also usually get like some form of a task or like a project through the holiday season, whether it's like one of those diamond art things or knitting, or like I always try to find something that I can just go back to, or a puzzle, right? And we can use it as our form of regulation for the entire family and we're working towards something together. So I also do that.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Actually, I do a puzzle,
I love that.
the whole family gets involved.
Puzzles are the best. They really
Yes.
are. They really are. That's the one reason I miss my dining room table or just having a dining room table in general is because of the puzzles. But like I literally had a dining room table to drop all the shit off and just sit there or for puzzles. So I
Right.
clearly use my office more.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The next thing we want to talk about is a big one, which is emotional boundaries and people pleasing. We always want to say yes to everything. It's actually going to completely wreck your nervous system, right? Say yes to the things that you really, really want to go to, or that you really, right? It goes back to what we always say it's your shoulds versus your musts. Like, should I go to that? Or is it like a hell yes? Is it like I must do that? And make some decisions that way And therefore, you're going to be enjoying the things that you do say yes to a lot more rather than doing it for someone else.
Yeah. And I do think that that's probably one of the hardest
Mhm.
lessons to learn and to try on, and especially during the holidays because of those
Mhm.
expectations, because of those traditions and patterns and how things have been done in the past. And I remember the first podcast you and I recorded was saying no because I am a reformed people pleaser who still struggles with that, but the freedom of setting those boundaries and recognizing how something feels on your body, on your nervous system, and actually saying, I don't like that, I don't want that next year. And we say this a lot to our clients. As you move through these holidays, don't shame yourself for the
Yeah.
choices that you've made. Just take note and say, okay, this year I did all the holiday shopping for everybody. Next year, I'm making sure that it's going to happen this way. And
Yeah.
so learning to set those boundaries without shame, but also just really increasing that awareness.
I agree with you. I think that placing boundaries and saying no is one of the hardest, absolute hardest things to do. I even did that this year, which I have never really done before. It's been a slow burn in terms of listening in and figuring out what I was doing with my family based on what felt best and right for me versus what I was just like, sure, I don't really have time to think about this. So, like, cool, that's the day you want me to come in town. All right, I'll see you then. And this year I chose different. This year I chose what felt best and right for me, but still making it work for my kids and my family and making sure that my kids have time with their family and our cousins, like their cousin, like all the things, right? So it is a work in progress and it does take time. But Maria said something that's really, really crucial, which is if you don't do everything perfectly this year, or if you recognize that you do certain things that you're like, ooh, that didn't feel so good, you've got next year. And you take the data from this year and that can set the tone for next year, right? Of, okay, that may have worked, but this didn't work, but this felt really good, but that kind of didn't feel that great. So, what would I like for next year to look?
Mhm. Yeah, I have made two major changes myself personally over the holidays of setting boundaries. And one seems so silly, but it was that I stopped sending holiday cards. And I just can't even tell you what a weight that is off of my shoulders because it's just so much work to do for and
Totally.
money for like a split second on somebody's wall or whatever. And it was the most freeing thing. And the other thing was I used to be tasked with buying not only my family's Christmas gifts, but the Christmas gifts for my family from other people. And I set that boundary, I think 3 years ago. And that was hard. That was so hard and so uncomfortable because, it's hard to break those patterns. It's hard to say, no, I actually am not going to be able to do that this year. But it feels really good on my nervous system to know that I held that boundary for myself and that's one less
Yeah.
thing that I have to do.
And I think prioritizing yourself is not selfish, right? I think that's really important for people to hear that when we come to being a people pleaser or when it comes to being a people pleaser or doing things for others, we look externally outside of ourselves to make sure everyone else is doing okay or to make sure they're happy, right? But that's not you prioritizing your health and your enjoyment. And Maria, do you want to share the story where you had just gone through the holidays and you were like, that did not go well?
Yeah. And actually, I think that was my first holiday season after working with you. It
Yeah.
was the awareness first. So
Yeah.
I went through the
Yep.
holidays and I said, wow. And I think that's
Yep.
what our clients really take away so much from this working with us is that they become so aware. They see things,
Yeah.
they listen to conversations differently, they watch people differently. But so
Yep.
I observed and I took data and just watched how the holidays went for me. And I said,
Mhm.
I'm not doing
Mhm.
this again. And so
Correct.
that absolutely led to me the next year saying, I'm not doing the Christmas shopping for everyone. And
Yeah.
actually, every year it's been less and less. It's been let's
Yeah.
delegate more. You help me with this. I'm going to do this. Which part are you doing? So that it becomes more of a team effort, and it's sort of closing off that, narrowing down to the musts rather than taking care of everybody else's shoulds.
I think this jumps right into our next topic of co regulating with our family system. By you doing all of that, Maria, by you delegating or taking things off your plate, even if you use that year as a marker of like, okay, now I have the data and now I'm aware, not sure I want to feel like that again. How would you say your holidays go with the kids year over year over year now?
Well, like you talked about doing the puzzles, one thing that I look forward to every Christmas break for me is I my dining room table is cleared off because we don't host Christmas at our house. We host it at
Yes.
someone else's house. But is that I get to lay out a puzzle. Want something I look forward to all year. And that brings me a lot of joy and it brings the kids a lot of joy. And so there I'll be there all day working on a puzzle and they'll pop in and out. And I just know that those are the memories that I get to create with them, and that's what they're seeing instead of a worn down, run ragged mom who's running around like crazy trying to get gifts for people. And so what it is setting that boundary allows me to be regulated, which allows me to show up better for the kids and allows the kids to co-regulate alongside with me. And I think that that is just going to create those memories for them of holiday season means puzzles. Holiday season does not mean mom is worn out and she's losing her mind.
Yeah, and I think that when our kids first get released from school, they're so excited. It's, winter break, they're having a blast, they're all over the place. And a lot of times from our clients, we hear, oh my gosh, like, when does school get back in? Like, I can't wait for the kids, right? There's definitely more chaos. There's definitely more things to do. There's definitely more sounds in the house, cleaning up after ourselves, right? There's just more stuff to do because there's more people home every single day, unless you are traveling, right? But there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I need a pause here. I need to go rest my body for a minute." Or, "Hey, I'm gonna get a sitter. Or I'm gonna do something, and mom's gonna go on a walk, or I'm gonna go to yoga so that I don't scream at you." Right?
Hmm.
You are more than welcome to take the time you need to enjoy it, rather than be dreading it and wishing for it to end, or, how many more days do we have the countdown
Right.
for it to end?
Well, and if we can model that self-care, whatever it looks like, to, those around us, whether it's children, partners, parents, in-laws, we can model that. It's contagious, people are listening and watching. And, for me, for the children, I want them to know mom needs a break. Dad needs a break. We need a break together. We're going to have self-care. We're going for date night. There's so many times where I say, I'm overstimulated right now. I need to take 5 minutes. And I have my spot where I go to. And then I come back out and then I say, okay, I feel better. I'm ready. And so modeling that makes it known to them that it's okay if we are dysregulated, but taking
Yes.
care of that and navigating through that in a healthy way is important to model.
Mhm. And I think that we all try to do that, every single one of us on the team, as well as it's really cool to watch our clients and get feedback from them, especially if it's their first year, from what they've observed from their past to present now that they've done this work of like, wow, like I just sat there and observed all these things and
Hmm.
like there was so much going on. And usually I'd get up and help or I'd do the thing. But this year I was like, I'm just going to sit here and watch and like
Hmm.
observe, and what a difference it makes. And it's so cool to see that shift, especially when you get around family or friends or other people besides just doing it internally on yourself. It's pretty darn cool to see and witness.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually had that same specific scenario with a client, a longtime client of ours that talked about a recent trip home around her family and just the observation and the wow, like this is just how I was brought up. This is how I was raised. And so the tools that she's learned has allowed her to be in those settings over the holidays with her family, but also be regulated at the same time and know what she needs, know when she needs to take a step away. And so it's just beautiful to see it translating into, our clients reporting the same things too.
It's amazing. It's wonderful to hear that and see that, and it for us it never gets old to be able to see how this work affects everyone around us and our clients.
Yeah.
So the last thing Maria and I would like to do is give you 3 of our personal must-haves for the season, right? And my go-tos are movement, like 1000%. I'm constantly moving. Even in this chair, I'm constantly moving, but I maintain my movement. So whether that's a walk outside or one of my workout classes or yoga, I still make it a priority to give myself what I need, even though my kids are home for the holidays and not out of school. The other one I would say is time alone, either when I need it or maybe after socializing. I love socializing, but I also sometimes need that letdown to kind of relax my body and kind of get back into the Zen space. So, whether that means I take some time alone or I make sure that Carter and I have some date nights or time to ourselves, it's really, really crucial for us to keep that part and aspect going so we don't burn out and so that we don't snap and so that we can enjoy the holidays. And then my last one is for sure mostly hydration, but also food intake. There's so much crap around the holidays and, so much yummy, fun stuff. But for me, if I partake in that and I don't maintain eating in the way and hydrating in the way that feels best and right for my own brain and body and my autoimmune disease and like all the things, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to be miserable by January 1 and I'm going to have to go on a cleanse to get back on track. And I work really hard to try and feel as best as I humanly possibly can. And so I'm also not a really big drinker, but hydration is a big one for me in terms of I'm like chronically dehydrated. So I would say that making sure to eat what feels good and nurtures your soul rather than, ooh, there's all these things and I just need to have a bite and it's just oh, it's just for today. I have to unfortunately, I wish I could indulge, but for me, unfortunately, I have to stick to what I know in order to feel the best that I do.
Yeah. I would say that I have multiple, and some of them are similar as yours. But I think for me, movement wise, is not as much like for me, is more calm and quiet. And
Yeah.
so that would entail either noise canceling headphones, loops have been really
Yeah.
good to sort of bring the decibels down. I don't do well with noise. I know that for me, noise is a big trigger. So, if I'm going to have music on at all, it's going to be something without words. So it's going to be something instrumental, humming, or none, because words and loud music could be so dysregulating for me. So that's one thing that I have to do. I love, love, love a soft blanket, weighted blanket, any sort of just texture that feels grounding. And so it can't be anything rough like a wool. I'm not going to wear a wool sweater because that sort of stimulus for me would be very dysregulating. But also, like the nutrition part, the movement exercise wise of that giving to your body before, making sure that you're incorporating that into the holiday excursion. And then lastly is just doing those check-ins, reminding myself, no matter how long I've been doing this work, to remind myself to just check in with myself and say, what am I feeling? What's my nervous system feeling right now? What can I do to
Yeah.
support it in this moment? And also, asking the children, what is it that you need right now? Looks like you might be hungry, or, you know, maybe we all need a break. Let's go walk outside for a little bit and just get out of, the chaos of the party.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with those anymore. I just want to remind you that although you cannot control the holidays and you can't control every aspect around you, right? You can choose how you show up in your body and you can choose what you show up for and what you say no to, the people pleasing aspect or the boundaries, right? You get to decide those things. You may not be able to control everything, but you can choose certain things for yourself, right? And regulation isn't always about maintaining this like calm, peaceful state. It's about knowing that you have the tools to return to safety within your body whenever you need it, right? And in a a decent time frame, right? We don't want this to take you weeks or months. If you have the tools and you consistently use them and you're able to become aware, like Maria is saying, you can then utilize them and you can gain that safety much faster when you need it, right? Because you know how to give it to yourself. So, my biggest wish and gift for you this holiday season is to give yourself permission to create a new kind of holiday, right? One that actually feels good in your body and brain, and one that feels like enjoyable, right? Not like a chore or like a must, like something that you have to do because people are telling you you have to do it, but because you want to do it and because it feels good for you.
Yeah, I echo that. And the beautiful thing is that we are here and we love supporting the clients that come through our
Yeah.
doors in whatever way that you need. And so lean on us, reach out to us
Yeah.
because we would be happy to share with you what we have learned and what we know about regulation and how that, how you can have a more regulated day to day and a more regulated holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you're saying that, I am going to remind everyone that we do have a huge sale going on, right? And we've actually never done our one-on-one sale before where we're offering $1,000 off per month for one-on-one coaching, and of course we do our Black Friday one time a year $1,000 off of Thrive. But we're offering these things because we know that so much is changing in the world, and not just because of my, big number birthday, but because this has been a very interesting and transitional year for so many. And there's been so much unknown, especially financial state of life. And we just want to make sure that anyone who wants it or craves it, just to know, like Maria said, that we're here and we love supporting our clients and we love watching them blossom and grow and actually enjoying their lives. Like, that's the coolest thing for us. I mean, it never gets old. Like, it's the coolest thing that we have our clients trust us and allow us to take them on this journey that you then get to enjoy your life. So, yeah, I'll throw that out there too while we're at it. But we are here. Maria's correct. We absolutely are. Any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are we all have the capacity to make our holidays and our lives how we want them to be, how we dreamt they maybe we couldn't even dream of them being this way, but one boundary at a time, one moment of awareness at a time, we can help guide you and you can have that holiday that you have always dreamt of having.
Yeah, you're so right. I'm going to leave it at that. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah. Maria, thank you for doing this with me and for sharing and all the things, because it's nice for everyone to hear from the team as well as just not just me. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, until next time, make sure to regulate and have a happy holiday. XOXO, Dr. V and Maria.